Welcome to All About Arsenal. It's been 21 years since Arsenal last lifted the Premier League trophy. We had 26 wins, we had 12 draws, and that squad were called the Invincibles. However, we've had some close shaves in the course of other campaigns. Let me take you back to 2007-2008 season when we had the Fantastic Four. Fabregas, Flamini, Rosicky, Kleb. And of course, there's Adebayo and Eduardo in front of them. That squad did so well. We're leading the Premier League for months, up until when we played Birmingham City in St. Andrews. The terrible injury happened that day to Eduardo da Silva, and basically our league campaign derailed. There were the draws against Middlesbrough, Wigan, and when we played Manchester United in Old Trafford, when Hargreaves scored a mad free kick that basically killed that campaign. We go forward again to the 13-14 season, which was the year of the Ron Ramsey, when it actually blew out for us. But that year was significant for one major team. Arsenal's 9-year trophy drought was finally over when we won the FA Cup against Hull City. However, we're nowhere close in the title running. Top 4 now became a trophy, according to Arsene Wenger. And eventually, he left the club in 17-18. And in the beginning of the 18-19 season, we had Unai Emery take us to new dimensions. Things didn't work out under Emery, and he was sacked for Mikel Arteta. Arteta came in December 2019, and he won the FA Cup that season, but Arsenal finished in 8th place. In Arteta's first full season, he finished in 8th place. Then in 21-22, he finished in 5th place. Then the last 3 seasons have been magic. No one expected Arsenal to do what they did in 22-23. They basically led the campaign for a considerable chunk of time before the league campaign derailed when they had that bad run that came with draws against Liverpool at Anfield, against West Ham in Upton Park, and against Southampton at home before losing to Manchester City 4-1, and that campaign was gone. Fast forward to the 2023-2024 campaign, Arsenal actually did better than they did in the previous campaign because Arsenal scored 91 goals, which was a new record for the club, conceded just 29 goals, and also had the record for wins. Now this season we had 28 wins, even more wins than the unbeaten team, because that team had 26 wins, if you remember. But it wasn't enough, because when we lost at home to Aston Villa, Manchester City usurped us in the table and went all the way to finish that campaign with 91 points. Arsenal finished with 89 points, and it was not still enough to win the league. I'm not going to talk about last season. That was a travesty. The club was injury hit, and we had 14 draws, which was unprecedented. What makes it worse was the fact that out of those 14 draws, Arsenal actually led in 9 of those games. But as the new season kicks off, there's this sense of real belief that this could finally be our time. So in today's video, I'm going to share 3 powerful reasons why I feel Arsenal can actually win the league this year. Make sure you stick around to the end, and don't forget to subscribe if you love more Arsenal content. First, let's talk about depth. Prior to Liverpool winning last season, Manchester City had won 4 Premier League titles in a row. And one key feature that helped Pep Guardiola was the fact that Manchester City had a lot of depth. They could have injury outlays and have the exact quality of players to replace them. And it would be as if it was basically like a plug and play type of setting. The folks that were injured were missing, no doubt, but the folks that came in to replace them were basically as good as the ones that were injured. The same could not be said about Arsenal because injuries and fatigue caught up with the Gunners in the running. December 2024, when Arsenal played Crystal Palace, Bukayo Saka was about to receive a pass and he tore his hamstring. January 2025, in the FA Cup, Gabriel Jesus, who had finally picked form after many months of being in the personal drought, suffered an ACL injury, and that's sidelined him for the rest of the year. We went to the warm weather training in Dubai. Coming out of it in February, Kai Havertz, who was basically our only striker at that point in time, also suffered an injury in his hamstring, and that ruled him out till May. This basically meant that Arsenal used a box-to-box midfielder in Mikel Merino to serve as an auxiliary centre forward. And that's what we did, because when we tried to use Trossard as a false 9, the team it didn't really work out. Arsenal actually struggled in those games. In fairness to Merino, he tried his best. He scored a couple of important goals, starting with the brace he scored against Leicester City, and he scored a goal against Chelsea, and a couple of more goals that helped the team. But he was not a natural centre forward, and it was there for everyone to see. There's times when you'd expect him to make a kind of pass that a striker would usually receive, but that mentality wasn't there. That IQ, that predatory instincts were not there for him, and it was not his fault. He gave the best he could. However, Arsenal is fully to blame for last season because if you remember, the club went for Benjamin Sesko in the summer, and he declined the move and tried to stay at Leipzig, but Arsenal did not go out there to search for a replacement, which was very strange because if you remember the 22-23 season, when we went for Caicedo and we didn't get him, we went for Jorginho. When we went for Mudryk and didn't get him, we went for Trossard. But for some reason, when we went for Sesko, there was no plan B. Arteta felt that okay, he had Havertz and Jesus for the whole campaign, but injuries messed them up. In January, Arsenal had a chance to sign a striker. There was a lame effort for Lee Watkins, but that didn't work out. In the midst of it all, our director of football, Edu Gaspar, also left. And that's now signed Andrea Beta from Atletico Madrid. And man, Beta is cooking. This summer, Arsenal has signed Kepa Arrizabalaga. They have confirmed the signing of Martins Zubimendi. Fabrizio Romano has also confirmed that Christian Norgard is about to have his medical. So there's a here we go for that. And of course, Vitor Gyökeres is coming! So while Beta is working on the Vitor Gyökeres deal, Arsenal is still linked with Eberechi Eze, Rodrigo, Mosquera, and Christian Madueke. So as it stands, let's look at each position and see the level of depth that Arsenal has. Goalkeeping, Raya, Kepa. Left back, Calafiori, Bibiskelly, and Zinchenko, who will probably be sold. Right back, Timber, White. Centre back, Gabriel, Saliba, Kivior, and potentially Mosquera. DM, or number 6, Zubimendi, Norgard. Box to box, Rice, Merino. Right 8, Odegaard, Nwaneri. Left wing, Martinelli, Trossard, potentially Rodrigo. Right wing, Saka, Madueke. Centre forward, Havertz, Gyökeres. This clearly means that Arsenal now has the right level of depth and quality on the pitch, which means that when we have another injury outlay, we now have the kind of players that can actually come into the team and slot in well without any challenges. You can have a match where you would use Gyökeres, you can have another match where you use Havertz. And what I love about that is that Havertz and Gyökeres are two different types of strikers. Havertz is the one that will give you the hold-up play, the aerial threat. Gyökeres is the predator that will just go for the kill, which means that Arsenal can, tweak when they want to. This also means that Arsenal will have quality on the bench. Because there are times in the last season when you look at Arsenal games and what you just see are kids, and you see Sterling and like 72 left backs. But right now, if Eze comes, if Rodrigo comes, man, that means that the depth of quality that be on Arsenal's bench will have a lot of game changers that can come and do a great job when required. This also means that if a player that is actually going to get injured will not fret over his injury, why we don't hope for that kind of thing to happen. The quality of the team can now suffice because there are genuine replacements in every position. And that was what Man City used to dominate the Premier League. That's what we're going to be this season. In the 2023 campaign, we saw the rise of the inverted fullback system, where Alexander Zinchenko came to the club and stepped into midfield. Even if Zinchenko is no longer a first-team regular, we now have a player in Miles Lewis-Kelly, who is also a midfielder that invests from left back, and he has been doing it superbly well. The difference between Lewis-Kelly and Zinchenko is that Lewis-Kelly actually also adds take-ons to his own. Zinchenko pretty much hogs play, looked around to distribute. But Lewis-Kelly, he gets the ball, holds up, and actually makes some moves, inviting fouls, creating space for his teammates. This year, Arsenal is going to have unpredictability which was something that we lacked terribly last season. The club was very dimensional. It was like Saka and Inshallah. Just take the ball to the right wing, Saka, Odegaard, and White or Timber would move around, and the left wing was always stuck. But with the quality of players that are coming now, Arsenal can cook from wherever they want to. If you have a Rodrigo on the left, he's as lethal as having a Saka on the right. If you have a Zubimendi holding up play, you will allow Declan Rice to become a full monster, going all the way up and bombing forward to support the attack. You also have Odegaard no longer drop deep as he did to receive the ball from Partey, because Zubimendi is a very intelligent footballer that progresses the game very fast. Or with the additions to the squad that Arsenal has this season, I think I'll be able to control games through possession and be very devastating in transition. This adaptability means that Arteta can now approach big games differently. If he wants to sit deep, he can. If he wants to press with relentless energy, he also can. You cannot imagine when Arsenal is leading a game and they want to kill it off, you take out a player like Odegaard, for instance, and you bring in Norgard. Then you have Norgard, Zubimendi, Rice. Game over. There'll be time when Arsenal will need to chase or win games. You can take out Zubimendi, bring Rice to the anchor role, and put in Gyökeres to play alongside Havertz. This flexibility will help Arsenal this season because Arteta is now going to have a squad he can juggle to fit what he wants, depending on the type of game. Arsenal had so many terrible draws last season because they could not kill off games. Imagine having a Norgard that can now come in to seal things up for you. Or if you're leading 1-0 and want to make it 2 or 3, you can take off Havertz who is tired and bring in a Gyökeres who can come with hunger to score more goals. And this is the most important reason of them all: Arsenal's mentality and big game maturity. Can you remember when Arsenal played Man City in the 21-22 season, where we lost 5-0? That game was a total embarrassment. Yes, it cost Ben Leno his place in the squad, but Arsenal were run ragged by Manchester City that day. It was an embarrassing thing to be an Arsenal fan watching that match. But the same Arsenal played Manchester City last season and trashed them 5-1. Yes, 5-1. Pep Guardiola's champions, 5-1. In the home leg for Manchester City, Arsenal were leading 2-1, had a red card, and Manchester City equalized in the 95th minute through John Stones. You can see now that Arsenal's big game maturity is a whole lot different. Let's review the results against the top 6 last season. I'm talking about Manchester City, 5-1 at the Emirates, 2-2 at the Etihad. Liverpool, it was 2-2, but if you recall, Gabriel suffered an injury late in that game at the Emirates, and Arsenal had the makeshift defense before Salah slotted in to get the equalizer. And at Anfield, even though the league was already won, Arsenal had a man down in that game and managed to end that game 2-2. I think Mikel Merino scored the goal and Martinelli, if I recall correctly. Chelsea, Arsenal beat Chelsea 1-0 at the Emirates through Mikel Merino and drew 1-1 at Stamford Bridge. And in the previous campaign, Arsenal beat Chelsea 5-0 at the Emirates when Kai Havertz scored a brace. Aston Villa, Arsenal beat Aston Villa 2-0 away. That was early in the season when Partey and Stross had scored for Arsenal late on. I think that was the game that David Raya made that amazing save from Oli Watkins. And of course, when Aston Villa came to town, Arsenal was in control of that game, but due to some shambolic defending from Partey and other players, the game ended 2-2. I'd like to talk about Manchester United, but they're no longer in the top 6. So there you have it. 3 reasons why Arsenal can win the league this season. Now we have the squad depth and the quality. Now we have the tactical flexibility. And now we have mentality and big game maturity. If you're as excited as I am, hit that like button and drop your predictions in the comments. Can we finally bring the title back to North London? It's been a long time, but it's high time we do it. Come on, you Gunners.